Hey guys, what's up? It's Sarah, and today we are going to do a video on self-healing and how anyone can self-heal from basically anything, with this as sort of a baseline. Kind of going to go through how I discovered my self-healing versus listening to everybody else and what everybody else felt that I needed that I didn't really need, but how I really cleared all that external stimuli out and really was able to look within to determine what I needed to heal. So a little bit of a background: since I was younger, I think I started gymnastics when I was in 3rd grade. My whole life became gymnastics for about 8 years. I practiced almost every day. Every curb was like a balance beam for me. Every cushion was like a mat. There would rarely be a time where I was not doing gymnastics. Maybe schoolwork at school, and that was it. Other than that, when I was outside of school and doing schoolwork, I was doing gymnastics. So during this time, I got really in tune with my body. I knew what my body wanted. I knew what it craved. And gymnastics also bred sort of like a self-discipline in me. I listened to my inner self, determining what I needed in life, and that really helped. The exercise also really helped, but I think a lot of it was just kind of like looking within, not really looking at all the external factors I had going on around me. I didn't realize at the time, but I was gaining self-perspective on life, self-drive, self-motivation, this inner wisdom I had. Kind of had to listen to my body in order to do all these gymnastics. I did this for about 8 years, did a bunch of competitions. I got up to level 6. When I kind of reached level 6, I couldn't really make it past level 6 into level 7. I ended up having to basically quit gymnastics. I got really tall and my legs were getting in the way of everything. After I quit gymnastics, I stopped looking within for a lot of things, and I started looking towards other people for validation. At school, like, I looked for the level of coolness, and I kind of fell in with a group that really cared about image. Then they cared about appearance, how they appeared to other people, and they also cared about, there's a lot of weed smoking. During this time, I suffered with a lot of anxiety. I was even bullied at school a lot. I feel like people can just like pick up on that insecurity. When you're needing that validation from others, people can almost scavenge you out. It's like, ooh, this is a good target to bully. So I was bullied a lot in my high school years, and a lot of this was just me looking for external validation for who I was as a person. There was no basically looking within. It just surrounded my life of this constantly wanting to be good enough for others rather than for myself. There was no lasting inner peace or anything, because it was constantly just trying to prove myself to others. And little did I know, I have no control how others perceive me, but at the time I felt like that was my life. So I did a lot of things that I wouldn't have done otherwise, just because I was looking for that validation. For me, it was very damaging because I basically didn't know who I was, and I was doing things that weren't working with my alignment, and I just didn't know. So this continued into undergrad. I went to a lot of parties, I drank a lot of alcohol, I smoked a lot of weed. And again, with the diet, I still wasn't really like taking care of myself food-wise. I was just kind of like eating whatever. I gained about 20 pounds my freshman year of college, freshman 15, and I was like, okay, well, I should probably just start working out again, because, I felt good when I was in gymnastics, and I had this sense of purpose and meaning, and I got the endorphins from the exercise. So I started doing the elliptical turned into running. Before I knew it, I was like running every day. I needed to get the endorphin hit. And before I knew it, with that running even turned into this external validation that I needed. Like, oh, I looked better, I lost weight, like I'm physically fit. So again, with the external stimuli, I was still just completely involved in what other people thought of me, which is crazy, ludicrous. For one to be running 5 miles a day, just caring what other people think, not really wanting to do it. And I thought, because I was being physically fit and because I was working out so hard and that I put more effort in than other people, that I was better than other people. I literally thought that. I literally would go around the gym thinking like I almost owned the gym because I had such a big ego. I felt like that felt good to me, that external validation that was just basically made up in my head. That really gave me a sense of purpose for whatever reason, even though I'm sure nobody else looked at me that way. When I was working out excessively, I was looking for the endorphin hit. I wasn't looking within at all. This was all for external purposes. This was all basically a coping mechanism too. My working out and my excessive running. I used to have to run 5 miles a day on top of lifting for like 2 hours a day at minimum. If I didn't go to the gym, I would feel horrible. I didn't get that endorphin hit. And it was a great coping mechanism at the time. I was able to cope with whatever the hell was thrown my way. I was getting straight A's in the science program. I got into grad school. I was doing good in grad school. I was high functioning on the outside, but on the inside, I was literally dying. That's a huge thing to realize, that there are people suffering in this world that don't look like they are. Really could use just some self-compassion and some of these kind of things I'm going to be talking about healing wise to help them cope with life, rather than people that are looking for all these external stimuli and you're not looking within. So instead of healing and building yourself up and thriving, you're surviving and tearing yourself down. Job status, appearance, anyone who cares only about how they look and not how they act. Anyone that thinks they're better of themselves for whatever reason, whether it's financial status or, an economic status, anybody who looks down to other people because they have more, that is basically a sense of insecurity. Those people don't have enough self-reflection in their lives. So anyways, I was only caring about external factors. I went to grad school to please my parents. I was running to look good, to look fit. Constantly always had to have some sort of validation from a boyfriend or something. I constantly had to be doing good in school. All these external factors distracted me from looking within. I couldn't look within at myself and what I needed because I had too many of these things lined up that I basically had to do on a daily basis. Long story short, I made it through grad school. I graduated. I got a physical therapy job. I worked there for 2 years. Still concerned about the external validation, not really happy in my job, still plugging away. Making good money made me feel good temporarily on the outside. And then one day, I completely crashed and I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move. I kept getting more pain, more weakness. I had a bunch of neurological things go on, I couldn't stand up without getting POTS. And this lasted for a good 1.5 to 2 years, just trying all these different things, realizing it was Lyme disease. But during this 2-year process, when I was in bed, I literally hated every second of it. I did not want to be where I was. I wanted to be working again. I wanted to be successful. I didn't want to be where I was at. And there's a constant inner tension in me because I felt like I wasn't where I needed to be in life. Without the external rewards, I didn't know who I was as a person, okay? I was basically lost as a person and didn't have an identity. Finally, I came to the realization I was looking within a little bit more, and I actually felt inner peace for the first time. And how I did this is I essentially gave myself the permission to not feel the need to have to go back to work right away, not feel the need to prove myself to other people, no matter what the issue was. Like if somebody else came to me and was like, yeah, you don't have Lyme. I had to get to the point where I was like, it doesn't matter what they think because I have enough knowledge in me to know what I'm going through. I'm valid for who I am, for my position, and that I have the power within me to do whatever I wanted to do without this person saying whatever the case they want to say on, projecting that on me. That's not my problem. For me, this was almost about just blocking out what everybody else said and what everybody else was thinking. And a lot of this included my parents, blocking out what they had to say, what their thoughts were about this whole situation. Look within myself to have a sense of knowing what I needed to do next. Because nobody can tell Nobody could tell me what I needed to do next. Only I could tell myself what I needed to do. Just so happened I needed to move out of my house. I needed to live on my own. I needed to, change my diet around. I needed to start other healing mechanisms. But in order to find out what worked for me healing-wise, which was a conglomerate of things and still is, I had to give myself space, presence, and just acceptance that I could still have self-worth without having the external input, needing the external validation. I don't need that, because external validation is almost like an addiction of itself. And when you're happy with yourself on the inside, then you don't need anybody else to tell you that, okay? It takes away that whole external factor. When I was running and doing all that stuff and doing the external validation, it's because I was running away from my life, essentially. I was running away from what I didn't want to be, what I didn't want to do. When I finally got to the point where I couldn't handle it anymore and my body burned out, I had some harsh self-realization to do, to say, hey, the only way I can live is to be my own boss. I can't have other people tell me what to do. That comes from any circumstance ever. I have to find it within myself. There's an inner wisdom, my knowing that I know what to do next